Good morning, all. We are all passing through unprecedented times, and during these times, unprecedented measures are the need of the hour. I hope we are all practicing staying safe at home, and we are all constantly striving to get vaccinated ourselves during this pandemic. Myself, Dr. Raina Raj, Head of Marketing for Natural Remedies Private Limited. I will be the moderator for this event today. Today, we have a topic, uh, managing raw material prices in uncertain and volatile business environment. And this webinar is brought to you under the banner of Naturalist Future 2.0. We have with us today our commercial director, Mr. Narendra Reddy. Mr. Narendra Reddy, sir, has been part of Natural Remedies for close to 30 years now, and he is leading the animal health business globally for India as well as all the foreign countries that we are present. We also have with us our key speaker of the day, Mr. Vijay Sardana. Mr. Vijay Sardana, sir, doesn't need any introduction. He's a well-known celebrity in our circles. As we all know, sir is a member of Commodity Derivatives Advisory Committee for SEBI, Government of India. He has lots of areas of expertise. He is a techno-legal and trade policy expert. He is an advocate and arbitrator. He is an expert in agri-food value chain. He is a commercial and technical risk management expert and regulatory compliance expert. Also, he is an independent corporate director and international trainer, independent panelist on TV debates, author, blogger, and many, many more. A brief snapshot on his background. He is an IIM Ahmedabad alumnus with an LLB degree and Master of Science in Food Technology from CFTRI. Currently, he is also a public interest director in the Metropolitan Stock Exchange, appointed by SEBI, Government of India. He has received multiple accolades from very well-known personalities and organizations across India, starting from Special Award by the President of India in recognition of contribution in the growth of India's commodity markets. He is also a winner of Global Agricultural Leadership Award for promoting food business and commodity sector in 2016. He also received a Distinguished Personality Award for the contribution to commodities market by Commodity Participant Association of India in 2017. And he is also the winner of the Poultry People's Choice Award, the IPGA Award, by the Indian Poultry Journalists Association. A warm welcome to you, sir. Before going into the topic, let me introduce some rules for this event for the smooth conduct of the entire session. On the right side of the screen, if you're using a laptop, you can see a chat and a Q&A option. If you're using a mobile phone or a tablet, you will be able to see these options if you scroll down. I would request all our participants, all the audience, all our well-wishers, all our esteemed customers to please start typing your questions in that Q&A option. And during the later part of the session, when we take up the question and answers, we will take up those questions one by one. With that, without any further ado, I would sincerely request our commercial director, Mr. Narendra Reddy, to take over the session from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Raina. Good morning to all esteemed guests who has taken time to participate in this webinar today. So before we go to the topic, I just wanted to take you through the Natural Remedies, who we are, what we do. Most of you don't need introduction, but I would like to share few key highlights of the organization. Our leaders, Shri R.K. Agarwal, who is our chairman, and now the organization is led by our MD, Mr. Anurag Agarwal. So as an organization, Natural Remedies considered to be the pioneers in the herbal animal healthcare products. Almost 4+ decades we are in the industry. With your supports and continuous patronage of our products, we are #1 veterinary herbal healthcare organization in India, and spreading our wings, in various countries with your support and encouragement here. The uniqueness at Natural Remedies is the natural products are backed up with deeper level science and validation, with the support of world-class state-of-art research and development center we have at Bangalore. Natural Remedies today has got presence over 19-20 countries, regular business, and another 10 more countries. The products got registered. The business is in the verge of starting. So almost 30 countries product registration is completed. Overall, we have very unique products, which we call them as specialty products for different species, for different categories. So as an organization, our vision is nature, science, health, happiness. Raina, please. We harness nature and apply science for health and happiness. We strongly believe that the existence of the human beings is more towards celebrating life. Happiness is very important. So happiness comes with good health. Good health will come with a good way of living. So our humble initiative from Natural Remedies side, whatever the products, whatever the activities we do, the products are validated with science to provide health and happiness. So this is our vision as an organization. To achieve this particular vision, our backbone is R&D center. The state-of-art R&D center, as I mentioned, established in 1995 in Bangalore, which is approved by Ministry of State Science and Technology, Government of India. So this R&D has got almost 40 plus scientists. Very important and uniqueness to highlight about our R&D is, you all know that natural products, herbal products, do not have very standard pharmacopoeia. The science, herbal science, was not in the curriculum of veterinarians at some point of time. Thanks to Government of India, this year they have considered to include the science, herbal science, as ethno-veterinary practices in the part of veterinary curriculum. So the uniqueness is that Natural Remedies R&D has contributed various monographs to various standard pharmacopoeia bodies, which is like United States Pharmacopoeia, British Pharmacopoeia, Indian Pharmacopoeia, Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India. So this makes organization very unique to know the chemistry and biology of the plants to ensure the 4 cardinal points of herbal product, which are, we call them as 4 pillars to ensure the proper output of the phytogenic products. One is genuinity, safety, efficacy, consistency. What we mean by genuinity, the herb, once it gets dried, with macroscopic observation, it might be difficult to differentiate with. So therefore we use macroscopic, microscopic, TLC, HPT. There are various methods to ensure that a specific herb which is intended to use for a particular product is 100% achieved. That is the step 1 in ensuring the very effective herbal product. Second important thing, people assume that herbal product means they are safe, they are natural, they are plant origin. But in nature, everything, the positives comes with some amount of limitations and challenges. Challenges such as pesticides, heavy metals, and aflatoxins, acrotoxins, residual toxins. So this is a core unique activity at Natural Remedies, where we ensure our products are complied to EFSA guidelines and various international regulatory bodies. Similarly, when I traveled to many countries, when we started introducing these products to the Western side and the Americans, the interest towards natural product is very high to use these products. But their question is, are they efficacious? How do we evaluate? Are they consistent? How do we, measure? So these two points becomes critical pillars for ensuring batch to batch consistency to deliver the product efficacy. And second important is the efficacy is monitored with proper phytochemical reference assay standards, where the batch to batch product can be measured in various laboratory conditions to know whether each batch has got similar, secondary metabolites which are planned to deliver the intended action. So the quality control process will become heart of our activities at Natural Remedies. So as the saying goes, like, born in India, growing globally. So we consider, Natural Remedies as an Indian multinational company. So today, the science which we have is and from the years 5000 BC, but the traditional knowledge applied with modern science to ensure effective dosage forms and visible results with the products has helped us. Three of our important brands, flagship brands, expanding in almost 17, 19 countries. Phyto-C, one flagship product which is known for natural defense enhancer. In today's situation, this pandemic has shown to the human beings across the world how immunity is very important through natural means, through our diet, through supplements and all. So Phyto-C falls under that category to play a role of natural defense by increasing the endurance of the animal. Second important product is, as the topic we are discussing today, the feed cost is rising. So what are the alternatives to reduce the feed cost while the efficacy and safety is maintained? Choline Plus, the safe greener alternative for the choline chloride. Another gut health modulator, Stody. So these three products are our flagship products. So without taking much time, I would request Vijay ji. In fact, we were with Vijay ji to take up this topic because today it is a burning situation. For last 5-6 months, the Indian customers are suffering with increased feed cost. There is a serious surge in soybean price. So we are thinking as an organization, our core value is to be useful, being useful. So how can be useful to our customer community and our stakeholders? So in that direction, so Vijay ji is always a busy person, but we have requested his time to give his perspective and his view and the forecast for the future about the raw material prices and the fluctuation, how it will be in new normal. So without taking much time, Vijay ji, today you are our, the stage leader. So the session is handed over to, the stage is handed over to you, please.
Thank you and good morning to all of you. I hope all are safe and healthy in COVID era. This is a testing time for all. Our health as well as our businesses, all are under strain. So at the same time, we have to survive, word has to go on. And we have to be very clear that we should not lose focus, whether it comes to health of our family and friends and colleagues and well-wishers and the rest of the population. At the same time, health of business should also be maintained. So this is a challenge for us. Why we are making mistakes in COVID, we have seen that when we do not understand the infection and its spread, and we see the side effect of it. It means to control anything in this world today, what is required is precise knowledge. If we do hit and trial, we know the implications, damages are huge, there are a large number of mortality wherever there is a carelessness. Unfortunately, same thing happens in business world also. Organizations are also organic in nature. We work with people and our customers are also in the same format, and fortunately or unfortunately in poultry business, Even the production system is more sensitive and organic in nature. Organic means a living thing, which I'm trying to convey here. With this objective, what is important for us today, one side we are struggling with our business aspects, where market reach, customers, clients, everybody is in challenging situation. On the other side, we have seen steep rise in prices. It was not the case last year when COVID, phase 1 was going on. Now in second wave, we are finding a very unique challenges. It was major lockdown last year. It is less lockdown this year. So there are many, many things which we have to keep in mind. And that is why what I'm going to do today, I'm just going to share very briefly the fundamentals where we go wrong. Why I'm raising this issue, because I have seen this across the platform, across the companies. We sometimes forget the basics of business. And when we forget, we have to pay the price. And this is very, very important that we keep reminding ourselves why things are going wrong, why things are not under control the way we want. So what I will do is I will go through a brief presentation, which I will touch upon based on certain facts, what is happening in the market today, what are the possible options with us, and then I'm sure there will be a series of questions because everyone is going through this pain. They must be having large number of questions, and I will take all of those questions as the time permits. So I hope we will quickly run through the presentation first. The way I have structured the whole discussion is it should be in 2 or 3 parts. First 10-15 minutes, I'll give you a brief overview why things go wrong when it comes to risk management in business. What are the basic mistakes people do? Then I will take up the set of questions which you must have forwarded. During this time, many of you must have come across some thoughts, some questions. Please keep posting it. Natural Remedies and the team has done fantastic job, and they will pick up the questions which you will post now, and we will answer them also in the second part of those. So it is going to be an interactive session. It is not going to be a monologue. And that is what I wanted, that I don't want to go into just data, what is happening in the world and what we should do and all those policy and big macro issues. Focus here of this discussion is at micro level, at enterprise level, at firm level, at farm level, how we can manage this crisis. What is happening at world level, I cannot control. So why I should spend too much time there? I should spend time and energy where I can control the damages. And that is where I think the whole focus is. So I must compliment Natural Remedies management, the senior management, all the team leaders for taking this initiative. And most important, it is not their business. But what is important, which I feel impressed with this approach, is they are caring for their customers. Okay, sir, our customers are suffering. What is the way forward? Because if they will not be happy, then how market or business can be happy? So we want happiness of our customers. Can we give them some guidelines how we can manage this risk, which is unprecedented this time? We never had this, and that is what we have to keep in mind. So I feel it is a great initiative by Natural Remedies to help their customers, and I must compliment for them for this vision and for this thought. So on behalf of all the audience, thank you to Natural Remedies for this initiative.
Thank you, sir.
Now coming back to presentation. Friends, as we know that today, in fact, yesterday you must have seen my letter which I have wrote to Honorable Prime Minister that there is a serious crisis in the market. And incidentally, I got calls from all the 3 concerned secretaries. This is Vijay, we have received your letter. Is this really a serious problem? What is the way forward? How we can go about it? And in fact, I can tell you that I forwarded that letter around 11 o'clock in the morning. By 3 o'clock, I got calls from all the 3 departments. And they say, we are seriously working on it. We are internally consulting how we can extend relief and what can be possible options. Because every decision at Government of India level has a many multi-factor implications. It is not so simple. But we have conveyed our concern. They are seized with the matter. And I hope whatever decision will happen, they have to take national interest also into consideration. So I hope we will have some way forward in coming days at policy level. Meanwhile, at company level, at management level of our own businesses, what we should do, let's focus on this issue in this presentation. Again, I'm saying why I'm not going into too much into policy issues, because I cannot control that. As a manager, what I can control, I have to spend my time and energy there. It is good to talk about macro policies, national policies, politics, but can we control it? If not, why we should spend beyond a logic, time and efforts into that? So this presentation is purely focused on, as business managers, what should be our approach. So may I request my colleagues or friends in Natural Remedies that please help me in this presentation. Can we move to the next slide, please? Friends, this is what the whole approach of today market is. If you see the way prices have moved, I'm sure you all must be aware that generally prices were fluctuating between 40,000 plus minus 5,000. So if I say 35 to 40, this was a general routine. For the first time, suddenly prices have touched 81,000, and look at the spike. This spike is actually becoming very familiar, like a second wave of COVID. The same way the spike is happening in COVID. It means matter is very, very serious. Why this spike has happened, it is important for us to understand. Why it never happened. It's not that there was no price fluctuation. Even last year, there was a price fluctuation both ways. But why it is so steep this time? What went wrong? And is this the last time? I don't think so. As we move forward, such spikes may be common. Why I'm saying this? There are fundamental reasons for it. And I will discuss that. Let's go to the next slide first. Today, if you have seen the newspaper, the second richest person in Asia is again from India, that is Mr. Gautam Adani. And we have another wizard in the world, financial market, which is, we have all known this face, it is very familiar. So this is what we have to look at it, what the leaders of the financial world says, what is happening in the world market. What they say is that business is all about risk taking and managing uncertainties and turbulence time. Reflect on this quote and think what is happening in poultry world today. We are in a turbulent time. There's a lot of uncertainties, both because of COVID and markets and prices, and a lot of mortality because of somewhere in infection. There was a viral infection. So many uncertainties were going through it. We as an industry, we were going through this uncertainty. Are we able to manage this? Yes, if we are able to manage these uncertainties and risk, then we are in business. And this is what I always tell to my friends and my clients, that feeding birds is not a business. If you place the birds and then buy the feed and feed them, and then you say, I'm in a poultry business, no. That is just a routine activity that your worker can do. The farm worker who is illiterate can also feed the bird. That's not a business. Business is who is managing risk in this farm business or in poultry business. Are we able to manage the risk? If we are not, then something is going wrong in our planning, in our approach, in the way we are managing our business. Feeding birds and just saying that I have disposed of in the wet market and that's why I got my cash flow back and I'm in a business, maybe for your satisfaction. But actually, that business is not there, because if that is the case, then every year you must grow 20-30%. And that is what is happening in all good companies. When they manage risk, they grow faster. And that is what we have to always keep in mind. So we can do our own internal critical assessment, what is happening with our business. And why actually it happens. And Warren Buffett very clearly says, risk comes from not knowing what we are doing. It means, I always say that, yes, I'm in a poultry business, but I don't know why feed prices are going up. It means this is our risk. You have managed very nicely some of the risk. For example, FCR, quality of feed. We give a lot of emphasis, a lot of seminars. We know that activity very, very nicely. Today, that's why we are one of the best when it comes to FCR in the world. Similarly, when it comes to healthcare, under all odds, under all poor infrastructure, water quality, everything, we are able to control the mortality at level with the world level. We are not having excessive mortality in the poultry business. It means we are able to manage health risk. We are able to manage nutritional related risk, and we are finding the results in that. But what about prices? Are we giving due attention, enough time to manage our price risk? May not be. And that is why today we are suffering that how to manage the price, because we have not given due attention. And I think this is a unique platform which is created by Natural Remedies, that instead of talking nutrition and health products, let us talk business. How to manage financial risk, and which is risk which we are discussing today. So my request is that this is a very important issue. You are spending today 80% time in finding, the nutritional balancing of the feed, healthcare of the birds. I think time has come when you have to divide more time into cash flow management, finance management, and other management aspects of poultry. And that will give you more resilient, more sustainable profitability as we move forward. Then, as this slide very clearly says, that what are the common risks generally a business faces? There are many. It's not that I know how to feed birds and I know business. No. And I know which vaccine to give in which disease, and how to check mortality, and how to buy chick, and how to sell birds in wet market is business. No. That's not a business. That is a pure, I will say, modified trading activity. And that is why we are not, success, whether business is growing or not, whether we are able to manage business or not, the only parameter is what is the growth rate in our business. Are we growing in a natural phenomena? If the whole market is growing at 8%, I'm also growing at 8%. Then what is your contribution? It is like you are flowing with the wind. If others are growing at 5% and you are growing at 15%, yes, that is business management. And that is what the internal, I will say, the testing parameter for you. Whether you are managing business or you are flowing with the wind, that is the way to look at it, how the rest of the players have grown and what is your growth rate. If you are growing like with the tide, then your contribution is just sitting there, and see that cash flow is minimum, efforts are there, and you are moving ahead. If it is less than the rest of the market, something is fundamentally wrong. You have to do a critical analysis of your business. If you are growing faster than the business, rest of the market, yes, then it is a business management. And then issue comes up is, are you the fastest growing with respect to your competitor, or you are less than that? That will tell you what is the next skill set or efforts you have to make so that you can become the best in the market. So there are internal ways to assess where things are going wrong, and accordingly you have to put the efforts. So what I'm trying to say in this slide is, there are many things you have to learn, many things in the business. But in this presentation, what we have to do is that I'm just focusing in one small element of the business, that is how to manage prices or the cost of inputs. Whether it is due to price war, whether it is due to some constraints in the supply chain, there are some political risk, there are some other risk, regulatory risk. All these can be discussed in detail, but that we will take it in question answer session. But here I just wanted to flag some of the bullet points where we have to focus in. Next slide, please. What is our business? Business is not feeding birds. Business is profits. And what profit is all about? Revenue minus expenses. What is happening today? If you look at, our revenue is not growing at the rate, the way costing or expenses are growing. It means our profits are shrinking. Simple equation. Business is a game of common sense. And we should stick to this fundamental aspect, that are we managing the fundamental things of business? Whether our costs are under control, whether our expenses are less than revenue. If yes, we are profitable. If our expenses goes higher than the revenue, very simple thing, we are in loss. No need to argue why this and why that. Fact is, we have made losses. Now issue comes up is, there are only two options with us. Can I increase my revenue? It means if others are selling at 80 rupees or 90 rupees a kg per bird, can I sell at 100? Then what are the options with me? Can I go to the wet market and say, others are selling at 90, I want to sell at 95 or 100, please buy. Will people buy? Think about yourself. In a commodity market, when there is no differentiation, can you increase the revenue just by saying, I want to sell at 90 if others are selling at 80? Who will pay you 10 rupees extra? You have to have a reason to claim another 10 rupees. And if there is no reason, you have no control on revenue, you are at the mercy of market. Then the second issue comes up is, then can I control the price? Again, you say, I don't know. And one of the biggest sad statement which I always get in the market is, जो सबके साथ होगा हमारे साथ होगा. Then why you are required as manager? Then we are flowing with the wind. If everybody is paying 80 rupees, I should also pay 80 rupees for soybean. Then why you are required? Then the worker can also do the same, and illiterate farmer can also do the same. So how to control expenses? Again, it is a management skill set. Are we using that or not? And that is what we have to look at it. And then if you are taking loans from the banks, your listed company and lot many things, the profitability matters a lot. Banker will do all sorts of calculation. What is your margin? What is your gross margin? Return on investment, and so many financial jargons. I'm also on the board of financial companies. I'm also chairman of one of the financial company. We look into these things. When application comes, we do such a detailed postmortem. In fact, we go into as many as 21 financial parameters before we approve the application for loan. Besides that, we also look at corporate governance. Besides that, we look into many other things in business, because when I'm extending a loan as a financial company to anyone, it is not a charity. I'm not a government of India that I'll give you grant and forget it. I have to see whether your business can pay back. If your margins are only 3%, how you are going to pay me 12% interest? It means your business model is risky. Then fundamental issue comes to me is that as a finance manager or as a company who extends the loan to you, how they are able to generate more revenue? Do they have a strategy, or they are purely in commodity with no differentiation? That is one big parameter. We also look into business models. Second, we also look at expenses. How they are managing expenses. Is there any strategy to look into risk management in business? Because if they do not have expenses management strategy, they do not have revenue generation strategy, it means profit is always at the mercy of someone else. And in such uncertain requirements, in uncertain situation, as a finance company, should I extend loan to you? No. Why I should put myself into your risk game? If you are not able to manage your own risk, should I put my eggs in your basket? Sorry, nobody will do it. It means that is one of the reasons that when you face problems with bankers, कि सर हमको बैंक वाले लोन नहीं देते हैं, हमको इजीली लोन नहीं मिलता है, not because they don't have money. Their business is to give loan. It's not to collect deposit as a banker. Please understand. When I collect as a banker money from retail customers or a common citizen, it is a liability. It is not an asset, because I have to pay back with interest. So bank's role is not to collect deposit. Bank's actually business is to extend loans, which I can extend a loan at a certain percentage of interest so that I can recover my overheads and also pay back to my depositors and also to the shareholders. So business is giving loan, and if bank is not giving loan to you, then something is seriously wrong in your business model. Please look into this. Don't take it lightly. And that is a first signal for you, something is wrong. I will be very happy you talk to the banker or financial institution wherever you apply. Okay, sir, what is your concern and objection? Maybe they will give you free advice. Okay, we are not comfortable on the following things. Maybe you have to work on that, and that will improve your business instead of criticizing banks. Okay, they are, they don't understand business and they are idiots and they, bureaucrats and all these things. There's no fun in arguing. Because who wants to kill their own business? I will be very happy to extend loan, but to a safe player, not to a risky player. And I also take risk, provided I know that other person knows how to manage risk. And this is very important thing you have to always keep in mind. Next slide, please. Let's come back to poultry business a little bit. Why this is spike in the business prices of soybean? Take one example. Look at where things can go wrong. Look at this chart. Government of, the SOPA, which is a Soybean Association and trade bodies in India, says that our production of soybean this year will be 12.25 million tons. When you look into other people, like World Bank data, USDA data, people, those who watch India from outside, why they watch India from outside? They look at India either as a potential threat. When you export, you hurt their export markets. So we are competitors in the world market. Or they look for an opportunity to do business in India. So they also watch you. It's not that why they are watching India. They have to. We are one of the biggest market in the world. So we can also hurt their commercial interest. That's why they all carefully watch India. World Bank, USDA, other international bodies says that our soybean yield is going to be something about 10.5 million ton. And we are claiming our soybean output will be 12.25 million ton. Now look at the gap. Both are saying that there is a forecast and this is the estimate. It means somewhere there is a serious gap when it comes to forecast assessment, forecasting of the raw material. Who should do it? And this is what I'm saying is, when it comes to forecasting, please also understand we are part of a commercial world. In commercial world, one of the big activity to make money is information. We always say that there is something called in commodity world is information arbitrage. Why share markets goes up and down every day? Business model of Reliance is same, Adani is same, Godrej is same. All companies have virtually, they don't change business model every morning. They don't change product launches every morning, but price of their shares fluctuate every day. Why? Stories around them keeps changing. Business is not changing. Please understand. Stories are changing. Adani is planning to invest. They want to divest. Somebody is trying to have a collaboration. You know, company has said this, MD said this, government policies coming this, and this will hurt company or benefit company like this or that. These are the stories in the market. These stories create a risk perception, whether it will strengthen the business or it will weaken the business of a particular company. Accordingly, people feel, should I buy or should I sell the shares? And that is why every individual has a different risk perception. In a same market, when somebody is selling, in the same market, somebody is buying. Please understand. Same company, same government, same policy, same information, just opposite interpretation. What this indicates? This indicates that if you are assuming that market will think alike, it never happens. So if you are dependent on what the other person is saying, and you want to make a business by reading somebody's else balance sheet or somebody's else statement, you are putting yourself in business, in risk. Then what is the game here? Please do your own homework. I invest in share market. Let me be very honest. I never follow any broker's advice. Never. I do my own research. And thankfully, I'm happy. Wherever I followed broker's advice, I lost money. Let me be also confessing that openly. Because I don't know what is their game plan in sharing a particular set of information. And that is what I'm saying when it comes to commodity business or financial markets, there is a very important thing called information arbitrage. People make money by sharing information. Now look at the implications. Somebody says there is a market of, there is a production of 12.25 million tons of soybean. What it translates into business risk? There's going to be surplus production or enough production. Don't worry. Relax. There will be enough soybean in the market. So as a businessman, what you are doing? You're also relaxed. 12.25 million ton is a huge opportunity. Don't rush. Don't start buying immediately because there's not going to be shortage. Why there's not going to be shortage? I have given the breakup. How soybean is consumed in India. And if you sum total, still you have a 1.5 million ton surplus. So why prices should go up? No need. On the other side, there is another set of information from USDA and other international bodies. This is India's production this year should be around 10.5 plus minus another 500,000 tons, suppose. What this indicates? This says there is not enough soybean, there will be shortage. Now look at two data from two different sources. Just reverse the game. One side, remain comfortable, don't worry, enough material is there. Minute you shift it by 2 million tons left or right, it says there's a shortage. Cover yourself. Now point here is that you are reading which document. That's up to you now. Why you are choosing 12.2, why you are not choosing 10.5 or vice versa. Now it is your intelligence which is required as a risk manager, as a top management of the company. I have played my game. Why I have given 12.25? So that minute I say that there is enough production, what will happen? When the season will start, prices will remain subdued. My business plan is how to keep the prices low so that I buy maximum, crush it and export and give it to my customers. That was my business plan. Maybe I have planted a news. Please understand. I may have planted the news. I'm using a word very specifically. So that prices remains depressed. On the other side, I have planted another news called 10.5. So that there is a panic, prices shoot up. When prices shoot up, you don't export, you don't become my competitor in the world market. Both players are playing their chess games. Now, who is right and who is wrong? Both players are doing what is good for them. Who has to think what is good for you? Whose business is this? It is your business. You have to think what is good for you. It means you have to read both signals, make sense out of it, develop your own market intelligence network, talk to people in the field, talk to farmers, move out of the room, do a survey in the field and see what is happening. When I was running business of soya processing, my requirement was 2 lakh tons a year, almost 600 tons a day. What I was doing? I was 3 times in a season, I used to go to villages and talk to villages. How's the crop? Better than last year, this year? Any problem you are facing, quality wise? Who gave you seed? Was there any infestation this time? Yes, there was a disease. At what time? At this time. We have to understand all those things. Why? If a particular disease happens at a particular stage, it is going to have an impact on the yield. Maybe disease is controlled, but the damage is already done in the genetics of the plant. It will have implication. Do we have all those understanding, or we are only looking into bags coming into mandi and what is the price? Point is, more you go deeper into the game, more comfortable you will be in taking the right decision. And how to plan it, we can discuss later. And that's what I'm saying. Things are very, very exciting in this. And let me confess, there was a time when I purchased raw material at 22, and sold DOC at 44. This can happen if you plan it properly. Next, please. So what is happening in the game? Here it is. Look at the international prices. Today, international prices, this is in rupee, so you can look at very clearly. Right now, international prices of soybean is around 44 and DOC is 34 rupees per ton. It's an international price. What is the price in India? We are talking of soybean as 80, almost double of international price. Look at it's not that there is no change. From 27, they have become 44. From 27, the DOC has become 34. And what has happened to us? From 36, we have become 81. It's a huge learning this year for Indian companies. This year is a classic example. Please keep all learnings by writing in your diaries. Don't simply say, I read the news item and I forgot it. There was something. Don't do that. The learning of this year will help you managing your risk lifelong. And I'm telling you with my experience. Make notes. That will help you. Next slide, please. So what is happening in the now game? What should be your strategy? After all, you have to buy, otherwise what you will feed to the birds? So what you have to do is that you have to also look into what is market information. What are the sources of market information? Should I only look at SOPA? Should I only look at SEA? Should I only look at USDA? Should I only look at World Bank? Should I only look at Government of India data? Or you will cultivate your own information network, which I used to do in every Mandi. I used to talk to my small traders. See, within market, there are different players. There are players, those who distort the information. And there are certain players, those who have no interest in distorting information because for them it is not a business. They only observe what is happening in the market. And they are very keen observers. You have to locate those sensors. And these sensors are human beings. Let me put very clearly. That should be your network of intelligence in the market. And for that, you have to move out. You can't depend on newspapers. Because journalist is also sitting in newsroom and typing what he is hearing from outside. So you have to move ahead of a rest if you really want to capitalize in commodity market. Why we have to move ahead? Because margins are very thin. So you have no luxury to relax and think of making money in commodity business or saving in commodity purchases sitting at back end. That's not the way it's going to work. So you have to build sensors, how to control that. Then you have to also do the SWOT analysis of suppliers. We do for competitors. Every element, who should be your trader in the market? The biggest one or the smallest one or the middle one? It's a big decision. Should you buy with a big, enter into agreement with a big company or a small trader? That makes a lot of difference. These are people dynamics. You have to understand how the market is manipulated by various players. There's no thumb rule. There's no MRP. There's nothing like that. It's a everyday input, output or flow, demand supply equations. So you have to analyze value streams. Who will buy? When I was buying 2 lakh tons, I had extension program, you know, for how much? To produce 6 lakh tons. People were asking me, but you need only 2 lakh. Why you are producing 6 lakhs? Or focusing on 6 lakhs production in your catchment area? Simple. In my area, my competitor will also encroach. Other traders will also encroach. I need 2 lakh tons. If there is an imbalance in demand supply, my prices will shoot up. So spend money in producing 6 lakh tons. Let competitor buy 2 lakh tons. I have no problem. Still 4 lakh tons left. Let traders buy another 2 lakh tons. I have no problem. Still my 2 lakh tons left. So instead of doing firefighting or doing post-mortem after the event, why I do not spend fraction of the amount in producing 6 lakh tons and save in my purchase price? This is part of a strategy. And it also gives you goodwill and many other benefits. So one has to think very differently when it comes to commodity business. Routine things doesn't work. You have to be innovative. Then you have to look at future trends. Classic example. What is the growth rate of poultry in India? We claim it around 8%. What is the growth rate of soybean production in India? Almost stagnant. Can't we see we are heading for disaster? My demand, because my poultry is growing 8%, my demand is growing approximately 8%, my supply of soybean is stagnant. Are we not heading for disaster? We are heading for disaster. Now, who is taking effort to increase the productivity or production of soybean in India? No one. Because in last 10 years, or I will say last 5 years, the production is almost same. It means nobody's, people may claim we are making a lot of effort, but point is nothing is happening on ground. Otherwise, why our productivity and production should remain in a range-bound manner? This is a signal for poultry. It means, will you leave soybean farmers out by saying that is none of my business? If that is none of your business, then you will in the mess which you are facing today. So how to take your partners along is part of your business. You cannot simply say, I'm only interested in murgi. I'm only interested in feeding birds. Rest is none of my business. Then you don't understand business. So you have to think differently. And then it has to be part of a short-term and long-term strategy, which you have to keep in mind. And then nothing is free. You have to also look at how many resources you can devote and for what. And then you look into commodity strategy development process. I'll not go into detail. It varies from company to company, but you have to have an in-house how to source it. And as I mentioned in the very first slide, we are not in a business of feeding birds as a senior management. We are in a business of managing risk. Tell me honestly, when everything is going comfortable in your company, who needs you? Worker is unloading the material, feeding into the machine, feed is coming, another worker comes, lift it from there and feed it to the birds. A contractor comes or trader comes, he lift the material from your farms and go and sell in the wet market. Where is your requirement? All is work done by workers. The only area where you are required as a senior management, as a leader of business, is in risk management. See, insulate your business from the external shocks and risk. If that you are not doing, you are only supervising what the workers are doing, then you are not utilizing your potential. Be very serious on this. And you have to look at risk analysis. As I mentioned, there is a regular thing. It's not that, yes, I saw that in January. I saw the report in October. I saw the report in February. And now I'm not doing anything. No. As I mentioned to you, stock market, every day market changes. Same thing is happening in the commodity market. Why in futures market, every day price is fluctuating? Poultry is same. Production has already come in. Then why everyday prices are going up in soybean futures? Because there are many players, they are watching market and analyzing every day, and every day they feel, I think there's going to be bigger opportunity, buy more. Even if you have to pay higher price, buy, no problem. When those people are doing daily exercise, why you are not doing it, you have to think seriously. It means identify your risk, estimate your risk, evaluate what you have to do it, then what is your response on the risk, what you have done. And then monitor what you observed. Is this reflecting in the market, or suddenly you are finding some new signals coming in, and then factor in how we are managing COVID at a government level. What is the role of, your Setu, which is, we call it Arogya Setu. Yeah, Arogya Setu. What is the role? Every day we are monitoring how many vaccination done in which state, which district, new cases, where, what, everything. Only then you are able to control. Otherwise, तो पता ही नहीं लगता देश में कितने cases हैं. क्या करना है? When for a billion plus population, government of India is monitoring every individual is monitored. And for your business, you are not monitoring. Are we not playing with fire? Think over it. So what are the options? Next slide, please. We have to, next slide. Next. Yeah. See, what we have to look at is, there is going to be risk, accept the fact. We are not gods. We cannot insulate our business from risk. Point here is that how we can hedge the risk, how we can cover our risk. That's the only thing we can do. We cannot avoid it. If I cannot avoid the risk, then at least I should develop a strategy to cover myself, insulate myself from the risk as much as possible. That's the only thing you can do. If there is no vaccine, the only option is mask. Only option is personal hygiene. So if you cannot control the price or the supply side of the soybean, then you have to at least develop a strategy how to control the price and the quality, because you cannot control the supply. So you have to work on those action plans or deflect the risk. Why I should take the risk? Is there anybody in the market who is willing to take the risk and I'm willing to pay premium for it? What you do in insurance? Why you pay premium? Because you don't know when you will be sick, but by paying marginal premium, you cover your 5 lakh, 10 rupees hospital bill. That's a deflecting the risk or transferring the risk. I'm transferring my risk to insurance company. And what insurance company does? They transfer further their risk to a reinsurance. So this is the game which goes on in the world. We have to learn from that. and how to operate in the risk. Sometimes in the risk, there are opportunities also. Provided we understand the risk. The whole issue comes up here is, what is the risk in the game? So next slide, please. The first point which I mentioned about, hedge the risk, cover it. Why it is important? Because you have to stabilize your businesses. Very often the biggest blunder people do is they consider hedging for profit maximization. No, hedging is a risk minimization action plan, not profit maximization. Minute you confuse hedging with profit maximization or trading, you are heading for disaster. And this is 99% problem with corporate people are, minute they start hedging, suddenly they become greedy and they leave their basic principles of hedging and move into trading for profit maximization. Means you are further exposing to your risk and you are heading for disaster. So hedging needs discipline at corporate level. It is a part of a corporate governance. It is not a operator's management activity. You should not leave this hedging activity to a field manager or a person who is sitting on the desk. He will be soon become, minute he says positive gain on the screen, he will start behaving like a trader. Never do that. You are not in a trading business. You are in a poultry business. Please understand. I have seen many businesses ruined because of this. Ruined, virtually bankrupt. Fantastic business. Because of this hedging, they started very well, but they messed up their own business, even the existing business, because of greed and moved into trading. So this is a caution. I don't want to take much time because time is always running out almost. So cost issues ensures your earning, ensures your risk management in the efficiency. So what are the benefits? We can share this presentation with you all. I don't want to go into detail because many of these issues will be covered in question answers also. So go to the next slide, please.
Sir, we are getting a lot of questions, and especially on the previous slide.
My last slide, my last slide, I'll just quickly finish, then we'll come back to the question. I'm not going into detail. Just go to back to earlier one, potential benefits. Yes. What I'm trying to say is that there are benefits. Study them carefully. For one single thing you have to keep in mind is discipline. Don't be greedy. Next slide. There are downsides. Nothing is free in the market. When you go into a hedging strategy, like you are doing packaging cost, transportation cost, loading cost, unloading cost, quality, all those things you factor in costing. In the same balance sheet, you have to also fit in hedging cost. Don't consider hedging as an additional cost. It is part of your business supply chain. So like you cut cost of material, transportation cost, packaging cost, loading cost, unloading cost, mandi tax, whatever. Then also add one more line, hedging cost. And then you calculate landed price. Don't consider hedging separately, because minute you consider it separately, it becomes a separate cost center. Then your CFO will make nuisance out of it. Then somebody in the company will say, sir, काय को सट्टाबाजी कर रहे हो? ऐसे थोड़ी होता है, हमने तो कभी नहीं किया. Then everybody will start becoming intelligent. Those who do not understand hedging, they will criticize it thoroughly. And you being a young manager, which I faced, it is a Herculean task to educate a senior old CFO why hedging is important. Because they never did in their lifetime. They all were speculators. So that you have to always keep in mind. Next slide. So what we have to look at is that how to do hedging. There are ways to do it. We always criticize futures market. It's a tool. It is not a market. Futures market is a tool. It is for you to understand how to use it. If you do not understand a tool, don't criticize the tool. Understand the tool. What we do is, because I do not understand, that's why it is bad. We have never used it in a positive manner. Because I don't know how to use it, that's why it is bad. This mindset should not be there. Next, please. So what is our objective? Our objective is how to stabilize the prices. Because we are in a poultry business, we are not in a commodity business. I want a stable feed prices so that I can calculate my profitability and other overheads and businesses. How to stabilize? There are ways to do it. When to sell, how to sell. There are two dimensions in hedging. If I'm making profit of 10 rupees in spot market, at the same time, I will be losing maybe 10 rupees in futures market. What is the net impact on my balance sheet? Zero. Keep this in mind. You will not make money both sides. You will lose somewhere, you will gain somewhere. But impact should be zero. That is hedging. Making money in a spot and making money in hedging is a speculation. Don't do this. That is a greed and that will kill you. Minute this equation, today both are making money, suddenly both will make losses. You will have no cash flow, you will be ruined. So always balance your greed. Don't jump, both should make profit. No. Keep this factor in mind. It is I'm doing it for hedging, not for profit maximization. I'm doing it for risk management. It means my loss should be zero. Loss should be zero. Don't talk profit here. It's not for profit maximization. This basic thing you have to always keep in mind. Next slide, please. So if we do this, irrespective of how the market behaves, my price will always remain, fluctuation will be zero. If today I am paying 80 rupees in spot market, please understand, I will also be making 80 rupees in futures market. So if I am paying, suppose I hedged at 60 and today prices are 80, what will happen? In a spot, I am paying 20 rupees extra. If I hedged at 60, I will be making 20 rupees extra in futures. What is the net impact? Extra 20 rupees cash outflow in spot and extra 20 rupees inflow from future, impact on the balance sheet is zero. And that is right strategy. This is fundamental thing we have to always keep in mind. Next slide, please. So this is what I just wanted to share with you. We can go to question answers now.
So thank you, Vijayji, for detailed, clarification. In fact, I felt that I am sitting in a class where, business fundamentals can be understood, with more predictive analysis kind of thing. So a few questions what we have received before the seminar itself and during the seminar. In a way, indirectly, you already touched the one question. Why the raw material price fluctuates so much? What are the major factors in domestic and international? And how these will vary in COVID times? What kind of, risk management one has to plan to prevent the, to overcome this fluctuation?
Simple fundamental. See, keep all business decisions up to a common sense level. Don't make life complicated for yourself. But you can use modified new tools to come to the common sense decision. There's a difference between. You can use artificial intelligence, but take a decision on a common sense basis. Point here comes up is why prices go up. Simple fundamental issue is demand supply. That is one. Second, competing forces. Now, what are the competing forces? You may be in poultry. I may not be in poultry, but I am in a financial business. I may use commodity as an asset. I can buy and stock it. And that's what I said in my initial slide. Do my SWOT analysis when I will buy and when I will stock. What you are doing is you're only looking into the poultry companies, looking into only oil companies. You are not looking at me, who is a financial player in the game. Neither I am in an oil business, nor I am in a poultry business. But I am in a business of financial management. For me, commodity is an asset. For you, soybean is a feed material. For solvent industry, it is an oil material. But for me, it is an asset class. All three have a different perspective. Analyze all of them. Only then you will come to know what is the right philosophy. Simply looking at poultry and oil, you are only reading the half of the story. So that changes the dynamics. That has an impact. And same thing, whether it is an India or international market. Everybody is in a game of profit maximization. All will behave in the same manner because human beings behave in the same manner. All are greedy. All are greedy. Everybody wants to maximize gain. Everybody wants to maximize profit. So all will behave in the same manner. Scale may be different. I have 100 rupees, I will play with 100. You have a million rupee, you will play with million. Somebody has a billion, he will play with billion. That's the only difference. Scale will be different. Behavior will be same. So understand behavior of players in the market and you will make less mistakes.
Yes, sir. So the next question is, what are your thoughts on usage of insect protein and or other alternatives, along with soya to mitigate the, the cost and, manage the protein source?
Very important and very, again, basic question. What our backyard poultries eat? They all eat insects. When they roam around in the backyard, what they eat? They pick up insects, isn't it?
True.
And that's why people say that desi anda is more tasty. People don't realize it is because of insect food. And they don't eat soybean. They don't eat formulated feeds. So why backyard poultry is all tasty, or why their eggs are more tasty or more flavored? Because they eat a lot of natural items from the nature, which includes insects. So this is a proof for us that if we have a good cultivation of insects and we can feed to the birds, birds love it. And you may be having a new variety, like today you calling it herbal egg. Maybe today you will say protein rich egg or extra protein, or you can come out with a new terminology.
Very nice. So another question, Vijayji, the government allowed a duty-free import of 1.2 million metric tons of soybean. So due to this COVID, whether shipment is happening, not happening, so Indian suppliers are telling it will not come, like that and all. So can you please?
Who has allowed? It is not yet allowed. It is just a recommendation on table.
Oh.
It is still in discussion. Not allowed.
Okay.
Till morning, it was not allowed.
Okay.
Now between our session, new notice have come. I don't know. So it is, till now it is not, but it is under consideration, serious consideration. If that will come, I see two benefits. It will not come immediately. But my request to all of you is that please start talking to your players in the world market. Can they give us a non-GM soya meal or soya protein, whatever? Because we don't allow GM as of today. So start talking to them, start doing your homework, so that tomorrow for some reason if Government of India comes with a notification, then you should not start running at that time, because then everybody will be running. So do your preparatory work. Tell them if Government of India issues a notification, maybe I will take it from you, number one. Number two, suppose the customs duty is 45%. Today your price is 81. International price is 44. Do your calculation. Even by paying duty, is it cheaper to import or wait for the government order? Even if you save 5 rupees per kg, please do it. So these are the business calculations which you should always keep ready. Don't wait. It's your business. It's not government's business. Government has other priorities. Soybean may be a very small activity, may take time to come to a decision, but you are losing money every day. So don't wait. Keep your business plans ready. Talk to your players, talk to your partners, and see from where you can source. Keep your calculations ready. If prices shoot beyond 81, if I import, maybe on experimental basis you can import from Sri Lanka half a container or 1 container and see how it works. There's no harm in doing experiments. That is what we have to keep in mind.
So there is a very different question. Soap stick glycerol usage in high oil and fat diet is economically viable? How about blood meal usage and availability?
See, I will leave it to the nutritionists, because there are many factors. When you are talking of soap stock, another thing, you are changing the fatty acid profiles. When you are changing the fatty acid profile, it is not just the cost, and that's what I'm saying. Evaluate your decision very carefully. You are making a decision based on prices. What is the implication on FCR? One has to think about it. What are the other implications? Because business is not simply price. It is the outcome of all the decisions. So one decision may offset other gains. So talk to your nutritionist. If you are only using soft stock, then how it is, because this is going to be highly saturated fatty acids. How it is going to change FCR? How you are going to change your feed formulations? And suddenly you find that low cost feed material is not useful to compensate the damages done by soap sticks with a high expensive maybe more enzymes, more something, then what is the use of doing it? So it's a comprehensive decision, not simply price is not the only parameter, is one of the parameters.
Currently, due to high prices of protein source of raw materials, suppliers are doing lot of adulteration of these raw materials with melamine and others. So what kind of negative impacts it will have on broiler and breeders' performance?
Animals never tell lies. If it is not protein, it is a test result that protein is 46%, actually it is melamine, you are bound to suffer FCR. Bound to suffer. जानवर झूठ नहीं बोलता है, आदमी झूठ बोलता है. FCR is a fact whether quality of protein was good or bad. And that is why when I was doing my business, my only test with my parameter was, and I'm sure there will be many people, those who were dealing with me at that time, my customers' feedback was that my normal DOC giving better FCR than high pro in the market. How you create high pro? I can add all sorts of things to give a reading that it is 52% protein. But the fact of the matter is that poultry doesn't care for your test report. They will only digest the amino acid profile in the product. And if your amino acid profile is not logical and it is not balanced, you are bound to have a problem in FCR. So be logical, put up a penalty clause, test your simple thing is test, don't look at all the time reports. Keep doing random sampling of your vendors on FCR basis. And inspect your suppliers. Because you see, people with corrupt mind will always keep adulterant in the factory. It's not that they will only buy for one truck. It is the habitual offense. Always prefer to visit your vendors. Sniff around. Is there any adulterant lying in a bagging section or in a store or in somewhere? Develop your intelligence. Select the right vendors. People are greedy. They even doing, adulteration in vaccination in COVID. Do you think they will leave your DOC? No. They are criminal by nature. They are terrorists in white collar terrorists in society. So be aware of them. Develop your safeguards.
Yes, sir. So one simple question is why this year there was too much price increase in soya meal DOC without any speculation?
As I said to you, that simple issue today is it appears that forecasting of 12.25 million ton was not correct. Something went wrong somewhere. And because of that, if you look at, even we have exported almost double the DOC compared to last year. So high. Second, population in India is also growing. So demand for nutrition, this year we are talking of COVID. We all are talking of protein-rich food. Maybe citizens have started taking more soya-based products or protein-based products. So human consumption must have gone up. Then you are talking about feeding systems. You're talking about oil recovery. You're talking about other things. So if you look into even country like India, 1% means 1.5 crore people or 1.4 crore people. 1% fluctuation can change the balance sheet. Look at the whole crisis of oxygen in India. The whole crisis in Delhi, only 1 lakh people were sick and there was a hue and cry throughout the country. What is 1 lakh in India? In Delhi, 0.5%, because Delhi's population is 2 crore. Minute 0.5% population behaves differently or becomes sick, the country cannot handle it. Imagine the situation in your supply chain. If 1 or 2% people started consuming little bit extra protein, you will not have a protein for poultry birds. So one side estimates, second higher exports, third maybe more consumption by people because everybody is saying eat protein rich food, more soya milk, more this, more that, we don't know. Still data has to come in, but behavior we can anticipate and factor in. So my look at is that demand supply imbalance is there. That is why speculators became activated, and that's why you see it's a direct reflection on futures market. So futures market is giving you a signal that there is an imbalance in demand and supply, which is encased by the speculators.
So positive of time, sir. Lots of questions are there. I will take last question and other questions for we can get your answers and share them to email. Some of the guests has already asked, requested the presentation. Definitely, we will share this presentation with Vijayji permission. So the last question is the price you are comparing Soya International is GM and India is non-GM. So when our government will allow the GM soya, any strategy going forward?
It has a serious implications both ways. Now let me put, it's a very serious issue. If I allow, suppose today GM soya and international market, forget about today's price, go back just 1 year back. In India, your price of soya was at 38, 36, around that during the season, because your MSP is 36. International price at the same time was 26. Imagine if I allow GM soya, what will happen to India? Take a very objective view. Why I should buy from Indian farmers? Then what I will do, I will put up a solvent plant in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. I will import GM soya in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, extract DOC under SAFTA treaty. I virtually import at reduced duty or duty free DOC of GM soya into India. It will be cheaper than buying from Indian farmers. Why I should buy from Indian farmers? It has a serious political implications. Second, that's what I'm saying. The way we are increasing MSP every year, we are heading for disaster. Our farmer leaders don't understand. They're doing politics. It's a populist measure. It's a disaster for India. MSP is always good for when you are not in a competitive market and you are in a shortage economy or in a closed economy. In an open market, it is like you're asking me to fight in the open market with my hands tied. They're bound to fail. So it's a serious political issue in India today. And because it is farmers, politics, vote bank, so many things, you understand the compulsions of whoever is in power. Today, whoever is criticizing existing government, ask other parties, those who are criticizing, come to power and take the same decision which you're demanding. They will not be able to do it. Accept this fact.
So the last question is when the soya prices will come down to normal, sir?
You have to wait for the coming season.
Wow.
You have 5 months to go. Because see, if there is a demand-supply imbalance, 5 months to go. 2 more batches of poultry required. Consumption is going on. Everything is going on. Nothing has stopped. People have not stopped eating during COVID. The only option is that maybe you have to place less birds so that your pressure on the poultry goes down. And maybe demand-supply imbalance works in your favor, that prices of poultry goes up. So that one side prices of soybean starts coming down, and because of lower supply of poultry, but the poultry prices goes up, maybe your cost is coming down and margins are increasing and you come to equilibrium and then move the other way around. But that is a collective decision. Again, I'm saying it is difficult because individually we all are greedy. I want to earn at your cost.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, Raina.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. As Rediza had rightly mentioned, I was, back into my college days, listening to my MBA sessions. It was a very, very similar feel. More importantly, what we all probably would have realized is we have a lot more to learn. Whatever information we have is just probably a tip of the iceberg, what I would suggest. So thank you so much, sir, for this highly enlightening session. We have plenty of questions that are still pouring in, and with your permission, I would disturb you further by sending these questions to you, to your email, sir, and we would request your.
And I don't mind if audience all agree, and if you agree, maybe we can have one session only on question answer, if that helps all of you.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. That'll be really helpful, sir. So, yeah. So with that, we would like to conclude this session. Once again, thanking all our esteemed guests, all our customers.
Yes, Rana. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I just faced an internet blackout here. So thank you so much, all the guests. We are still getting quite a lot of questions. We will certainly take up these questions with our speaker, and we will certainly get back to you. And we will again meet on our next session under our banner, Naturalist Future 2.0, at a later point, and we will keep informing you all our upcoming sessions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reddy sir, for being part of this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Raina, for executing this session very nicely. And most of the questions what we have got, we can answer, by email.
Absolutely.
So that is our promise to our guests. Thank you very much.
Thanks.